If you're enjoying delving through all the details in Dexter Resurrection, you're probably asking, just who is the New York Ripper? We know that he's responsible for 22 victims, all of them disemboweled, and that he's been missing for the past 5 years, save for some cruel phone calls to the families of his victims. Today, I'd like to break down the dominant theories about this mysterious serial killer. Meh. First up, I think the top contender for New York Ripper status has to be Blessing, everyone's favorite former child soldier slash Eurocar driver. This one really blew up after episode 8, wherein we learn that Blessing kept his past from his daughter Joy, and that he thinks of himself as a monster for the crimes he committed back in Sierra Leone, including killing at least one person.
Just one.
The theory here is pretty simple. Blessing must have sought to contain his own dark passenger by killing as the New York Ripper, and at some point his mother Prudence was able to keep his urges contained through her own brand of positivity. Now, without Prudence around and his secret Sierra Leone child soldiering out in the open, it could be that Blessing shifts back into Ripper mode and seeks to kill again. Heck, this could be what Season 2 of Dexter Resurrection winds up tackling. That or Blessing could end up hastily added to Dexter's kill table. There's another element to this theory that I think should be mentioned as a bit of a misconception. According to theorists, Blessing most fits the probable age of the Ripper, since Leon Prater specifically notes that he remembers the Ripper committing murders while Prater was a child. Now, this isn't exactly the case. Prater states that the Ripper terrorized the streets that he grew up on, not that the Ripper specifically operated when he was a child. It could be construed that way, I suppose, but it seems pretty obvious that Prater isn't referring to the Ripper operating during his actual childhood. Now, for what it's worth, I don't think this theory holds much water in the first place, mostly due to the sheer unlikely nature of Dexter just happening to meet and befriend, and even sublet, from the New York Ripper of all people. It just seems like a huge leap, even for a show like Dexter. We also have supposedly heard the voice of the Ripper, and it definitely doesn't match up. Next up, there's Detective Melvin Oliva, whom I believe is the most likely Ripper suspect out of the current lineup in Dexter Resurrection. Think about it. This guy is partnered up with the detective who's been going after the New York Ripper. I'd be willing to bet that this is the kind of gig not a whole lot of fellow officers of the law would want to be dealing with, considering Claudette Wallace isn't exactly the most personable character around. It could very well be that he wormed his way into being her partner, specifically so he, as the killer, would then have all the information at his disposal to keep Detective Wallace, and therefore the NYPD as a whole, off his trail. Add to that, he's constantly second-guessing Wallace, suggesting that he has a habit of keeping her from the truth. Of course, there are flaws here. One of them is just how likely it would be that we get a cop as the big bad 2 seasons in a row, considering the twist in Dexter Original Sin. Another significant issue is that there's not really much going on with Oliva, aside from a shot of him in a suit in front of Claudette's New York Ripper theory board thing. In my opinion, it's more likely that he's working for Leon Prater. It could also be that this is all an elaborate ruse by Claudette Wallace herself, and that the same general idea applies to her, that she's using her position as a detective, and in this case the lead detective for the case, to keep the police off the trail of the Ripper. If this is the case, it shines a whole new light on her interaction with Dexter at the college presentation, wherein Dexter shows off his aptitude for blood spatter analysis and accurately points out the kind of weapon that must have been used. Obviously, he does cheat a bit because he saw the weapon in Leon Prater's vault. Anyway, this could mean that Dexter is now on her radar, and we're gearing up for the ultimate showdown between Dex and a brilliant detective with the ultimate dark secret. As far as the voice goes, what we hear recorded could conceivably have been done with a voice changer a la Ghostface. It wouldn't be the dumbest revelation in Dexter history, but for what it's worth, this is probably the least likely scenario, though it would fit in with Dexter hiding its killer in plain sight throughout the series. Then there's the theory that I found completely bonkers, but it's worth mentioning because of how often it comes up amongst Dexter theorists. Jonah Mitchell, the son of Trinity Killer Arthur Mitchell, is one of the prime suspects among these fans, and the reasoning is pretty straightforward. In the episode Nebraska, we learn that Jonah murdered his own mother, and that he was capable of the same murderous tendencies as his father. He also utilizes a hook as a weapon in that episode, making the connection to the New York Ripper all the more direct since the Ripper used a manhole cover hook. He also has the closest voice to that of the Ripper, assuming that the voice we hear as part of Claudette's presentation is accurate to the Ripper himself and not, for example, a voice changer. What's more, we technically have some foreshadowing in the form of Arthur Mitchell's ghost showing up to talk to Dexter. There's just that sliver of a chance that this is set up to prepare viewers for more callbacks to the original series, such as the shocking reveal that Jonah Mitchell made it all the way from Nebraska to New York City and became one of the most accomplished serial killers in the Dexter universe. Yeah, when you put it that way, it sounds kind of stupid. Finally, I'd be remiss to not mention Leon Prater himself. I think the biggest clue here has to be his possession of the aforementioned manhole cover hook that the Ripper used to slay his victims. While this could be an oversight in the writing, it's pretty well established that the police don't know what kind of weapon was used by the Ripper. If that's the case, then how does Prater know what weapon was used, and more importantly, how did he wind up with it in his collection? One answer could be that he himself is the Ripper. There are a few problems with this theory. One is that Leon Prater's voice doesn't match the recording at all, while another is that his size makes him an unlikely serial killer. Not that, like, he couldn't be a murderer if he really put his mind to it, it just seems unlikely is all. Anyway, there's also the issue of how it would negatively affect his character. If he's a serial killer himself, why collect their trophies? Why the whole murderer dinner party routine? It's not that it couldn't be written, but it would feel like a cheap cop-out after so much time was spent ensuring us that he isn't a killer himself. Now, the answer to these issues is that Prater actually commissions the Ripper murders, which is an intriguing idea. Basically, Prater pays the serial killers he meets to commit the killings using the same methods. This would allow Prater to play serial killer without having to get his hands dirty and would throw in enough extra variables to make solving the case a nightmare for the NYPD. Perhaps the dinner parties began as a replacement for this practice, or have been a means for Prater to find new talent. Heck, maybe he proposes that Dexter take on the mantle of the New York Ripper. I don't know. Still, that's a lot of plot to throw in for the last 2 episodes, so while it makes about as much sense as Oliva being the Ripper, I just don't see it being the twist. I should say an offshoot of this theory is that the Ripper was actually the same man who killed Prater's parents, but that again feels like a hell of a stretch. Now, what do I think is the real truth behind the New York Ripper? No one asked? Well, I don't think we're going to see his identity revealed in Season 1 of Dexter Resurrection, unfortunately. I believe that this is a part of Clyde Phillips' plan for the show, and that while Leon Prater's story will be wrapped up by the end of Episode 10, the story of the New York Ripper will go on into Season 2, where it will doubtless be the primary plot for Dexter. But what do you think? Have we met the Ripper, or are all the current theories total bunk? Let me know in the comments, and hey, thank you for watching ScreenRant.